Hello everyone, and welcome back to Sakura Unboxing. So, welcome to another single figure review. Today, I have one that I've been very much anticipating. It was kind of an instant pre-order for me, even with how expensive these two were. And yeah, I'm very excited to unbox these two. So it's two characters in one figure, quite expensive, and they're both long-haired boys. Of course, my cup of tea when it comes to anime, game, character designs in general. So yes, I'm very excited to unbox these two, so let us get into the figure reveal. So here I have another massive box that I might use my knee to kind of prop it up with, but yes, very gorgeous overall, and this is the Master of Diabolism, lanwangji and weiwuxian 1/8 Buxianxian version. I apologize if I butchered that at all, but yes, very popular series. I still have to watch, the Chinese anime adaptation of this, but of course, two long-haired boys for my long-haired boy collection. I had to pick them up, even with how expensive these two were. So of course, I'm very excited to unbox these two overall. It's gonna take up quite a bit of space, but yes. So without further ado, we're gonna get into the general information about this figure. So going into some general information about this figure, so this figure was manufactured by Good Small Art Shanghai, and I believe they were originally supposed to have a December of 2023 release date, but ended up getting pushed into January of 2024. Going into the dimensions of this figure, so they are a 1/8 scale figure measuring roughly 12.29 inches in height. Now we're going into where I purchased this figure from. So I actually already had this figure paid for when it first went up for pre-order. I got this figure off of Good Smile US, which I really don't shop there anymore for reasons I'll get into in a bit. So yes, the price on there was $439.99. The tax was an extra $40.38. Shipping was $28.14. And then there was the shipping insurance, an extra $5, coming out to a grand total of $513.51 USD. So yes, this was before I knew about Good Smile Global's flat rate shipping, and then the fact that you can also pay for the figure when it's in stock in the future. So yeah, that was definitely a very big blow to my wallet, and unfortunately I couldn't refund the figure off of there and transfer, an order to Good Smile Global because unfortunately the pre-order window is closed. But I do feel like this is a little bit of a blessing in a way, considering that, I paid for the figure, I won't have to worry about it in the future. Considering how hectic my January pre-orders were, so, I guess there is a little bit of a silver lining to that. Going into the shipping, so I'm going to go over Good Smile US first. I chose UPS Ground because it was the cheapest, and that was the $40.38 USD. And for those who are crazy enough to order this figure off of AmiAmi, I will have the shipping prices, of course. So we have, by this user comment, 16,060 yen for EMS, 19,100 yen for DHL, and then 7,952 yen for surface parcel. Okay, so stepping back, pretty big box overall. And before I get into, taking them out of the packaging, I did order this from Good Smile US, so I managed to pay for these two up front, which was good, because December, and I think these guys came out in January. January was a bit crazy, so I'm like, thank God I paid for these two via, Good Smile US in advance, so I didn't have to worry about paying for them on the day that they, were supposed to come out. And additionally, it came with a bonus wall scroll, which I haven't actually opened, but from what I'm looking at in the packaging, it looks super nice. Like, the fabric material looks fantastic. It has this nice bow to it. I'm very excited to see this later because it does have the original artwork that these two are based off of. So yeah, this will be shown in the figure overview section, so I'm not going to take it out right away, but I'm excited to look at it later. And now we're getting into the box itself, and again, very big overall, but I do like the way this looks, the design. Unfortunately, there is no original artwork on it, but I feel like it's nice quality overall. Some of the lettering on here is like silver and shiny. The other thing I like about this box when I took it out is the feel of it. I can't describe what it feels like, but the box has like a nice like smooth sort of texture to it. For those who do have this figure, you'll know what I mean, but it just feels very nice. And again, you know, high quality overall. So you do have, of course, a window for the figures, and then all around. Yeah, just a very, I think it's pretty solid design overall. So yeah, so let me get into finally unboxing these two. Okay, so here the two are out of the box, and there's already there's some instructions on the top. It says, okay, product is with slim shapes to depict the features. Please keep it from place over 35 degrees Celsius or 95 degrees Fahrenheit as it may deform. So already not a good sign, the fact that you have to keep you know, this figure away from like heat, which is going to be a problem later in the summer, or if you live like on the equator and you have this figure. So yeah, already, you know, not a good sign seeing to keep it away from like certain heat levels, or else stuff is going to get misshapen. Moving on to instructions, yeah. So there's a couple of steps to assemble this figure. Hopefully not too bad. So yeah, thankfully the two of them, it looks like they already come on the base, which is good. And then there's just 5 other pieces to attach, so yeah. First we gotta free them from the box. So yeah, the box, kinda tough to open. It just requires a lot of force to open the blister packaging, plus there are twist ties with that one. And how ironic, I actually am unboxing this one the same day I did the Strawberry Miku one, which also had twist ties, so I've just been fighting with those all day. So yes, here they are, finally out of the box, and so far, looking at them, it looks so far so good. I'm just, you know, taking a look at the front of his hair, which I am already noticing that there's a little bit of like a little like scuff on him. Anger. Especially with how much I paid for these guys, because they were not cheap together. So it's already upsetting to see that this one has a little scuff on the front of his hair. I'm gonna see if I can cover that up, because honestly, for how much I paid for this figure, I should not have that issue. So yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look again at the instructions, which I dropped on the floor. Okay. So yeah, it's about just mostly removing hands and putting instruments in certain areas. So yes, let us first get rid of course, the little plastic. Yeah, it doesn't look like the heads come off, which I mean is understandable. Never mind, they do come off. Oh my god, scared me. I mean, I figured with figures like this, if they have like plastic under like the neck, it should come off. So yeah, there's one I'm gonna have to put on there. But yeah, his sculpt looks fantastic. I will admit though, I wish there was a little bit more shading on the hair. Okay, so I managed to take off all the plastic, so the heads, they do come off. It doesn't say in the instructions that they do. So yeah, managed to get them off. Lanwangji was pretty easy to take off, just again use the protective packaging from the box to, you know, just take his head off because it kind of came flying off. And then weiwuxian, I struggled a little bit. I held him like this, and again, if you saw from maybe the footage that, you know, I really almost just flung it off. The other thing you have to be careful with him is his little ahoge right here. Again, it's a, you know, thin piece, so again, I'd probably just hold him by the bangs. I really wouldn't try to like put your hand like right up in front on top of that, because you could easily break that off. Which again, I maybe wish that was a separate piece in that case, because you have to take the head off just to get rid of that plastic. So yeah, now we're going to be moving on to assembly. So first we're going to be starting off with weiwuxian. He does have one removable hand, and we'll switch it for, of course, his flute. So yeah, starting off, you just simply remove the hand that he has, and you can replace it with the flute that he comes with. Yeah, the flute is basically just kind of like one solid color, or if there is any shading, it's hard to tell. The tassel does have some nice shading, like darker red to lighter red, and the little gem piece on there is transparent, which is very nice, so it shouldn't be too difficult to go ahead and put in. Yeah, okay, painless. Very painless, thankfully. So, okay, there's that. Next up is lanwangji's instrument. Very nice wood texture to it. And there is actual like strings on it, so very nice overall. I do like the look of it and the sculpt. It does have like a little like cloud design on there. So that just simply gets put onto his lap, and there are some holes. Okay, so I put them both together, the instruments for the first one. weiwuxian's very easy. You do kind of have to twist the hand a little bit just to put his other hand on top of the instrument. Lanwangji's quite tricky to put in. I accidentally had the strings like over on top of his hands, which is not the case. Thankfully I didn't break any of those. So yeah, there's that. It's just really getting eye level with it, because you have to line the pegs up and it's definitely hard to see. And I feel like I might not even have it on right. Because it looks like his hand's supposed to be kind of like hovering the strings, but it's not really. I don't know what angle I'm supposed to have this at. I might have to look at user pictures later to figure that out, because from my assembly it doesn't look quite right. So yeah, but overall not super stressful. It's just with lanwangji really taking your time. So now moving on to the next step, which is putting on the branches for the tree that's growing in this piece. Looking at the pieces, they are very nice overall. I do kind of like the color that they went for. It's a little bit white, pink, a little bit of yellow, and I do like the color of the branch as well. So I'm going to see which one exactly we start off with first. It's probably the very big one right here. And the little flowers are a little bit translucent, which I do think is a neat touch. So yeah, we just gotta make sure to assemble this correctly. So yeah, on the back of weiwuxian there is a peg for this, which hopefully shouldn't be too bad. Okay, first one in, very easy. I felt it like smoothly in. It wasn't super tight of a fit, which is good. And then we have the other branch, which goes, actually, yeah, where does this go? And then the smaller piece we have right here actually attaches on to a lower part of the tree, so should be okay. Yeah, that one was easy as well. So small one's here, big one's a little bit higher up. And then the last piece we have is, of course, weiwuxian's long hair and a ponytail, of course. Very nice flow overall to it. Do notice a tiny little paint like scuff. It's not like noticeable, it's in the back. But still, for how much I paid for these two, I really shouldn't have to like see any of this on my figure. Granted, who knows, maybe I just picked it up out of the box wrong, but I was obviously being very careful. So there is a little bit of shading to this. I like the sculpt of it overall. I just wish that the shading was maybe a little bit more prominent on this figure. Again, for how much I paid for, I should see some nice details. So yeah. Okay, so this kind of has to go wrapping around this whole branch right here, so I'm going to try and do this as neat as possible. Let's see. Okay, additionally, I should mention this before I get into it. The instructions were nice enough to tell us that the little hair tie part does come apart from the hair, which is good to know. Okay, so we're gonna have to try and like bob and weave this through this tree. Okay, so I managed to get the hair on. Honestly, it wasn't too bad overall. So yeah, it's best to take the ponytail, hair tie, and the hair separate, and then just, it does involve a little bit of bobbin and weaving. Thankfully, the ponytail piece is a flexible plastic, which is good. And then where to put the his actual hair. There is an extra little peg on one of the branches where it's meant to go in to connect the hair to the branch, so it's not too hard to figure out. And thankfully, the tightness of this peg for the ponytail wasn't that egregious, thankfully, so it cooperated. And now, I think obviously I'm very like happy because of, you know, recording the same day as that Strawberry Miku, which gave me so much stress. But this one was actually not too bad to assemble overall. You know, still take your time with it, but yes. And here they are, all assembled. I mean, I haven't really looked at them from the front yet, but on camera, absolutely stunning. If you're a big fan of this series, I feel like I would recommend picking this one up because they both look so good. Maybe see how the aftermarket is with these two. So yeah. Yeah, well, hopefully you can pick these up because, you know, it's a, you know, two of them in one, and it looks very nice. But yeah, since that's complete now, let us get on to the figure overview section. Now we're getting into the Good Small Online bonus, which is this absolutely stunning wall scroll. The quality of this material is absolutely fantastic. I'm not too sure what it is 100%, but it's got a nice like reflectiveness to it with these little flowery details. The artwork itself is printed fantastically, very crisp and clear, nothing too blurry. And yeah, I had to get the bonus. Like, this is such stunning artwork of these two handsome boys. I'm so happy. So yes, take advantage of at least the Good Small Online global stores, flat rate shipping, and you know, in general, if there's a bonus on there, you might as well just pick it up from their website. My only really complaint about this wall scroll is actually just the ribbon that's used to kind of hang the figure. I think I would have just liked a string. Again, I had this in the packaging for so long and it's pretty wrinkled, which is unfortunate, but it doesn't really detract from the rest of the wall scroll. And yeah, just very gorgeous material. I love how it just shines. So yeah, very excellent bonus. Now we're going into B-roll for the box itself. I'd say it's pretty reasonable size considering how large and wide this figure is. There's some little holographic details on the front, some nice quality pictures of the figure itself on all sides of the box. And if you can see the lines like going down the box, I don't know what it is, but this box has quite a nice texture to it. I can't describe exactly how it feels, but it makes it feel a little bit more high quality. So yeah, I'd say a pretty solid box overall, good size, and very nice quality. Now we're getting into the assembly process for the figure, so the instructions I feel like are pretty straightforward. Really nothing too complicated with this figure, thankfully, for how massive it is. And then we have the pieces on the back, which thankfully there is not a lot to do. Starting off, weiwuxian and lanwangji are already on the base, which is a plus. It's nice that they did that for us. And now we have weiwuxian's hand, very nice hand sculpt along with the flute and the tassel. Nice shading on the tassel with the darker reds as well. And now we just have to remove his right hand and then place the flute hand in. Thankfully it's not a super tight fit to remove the hands, which is something I like. And then you just place that in, and you do kind of have to tuck the flute under his left hand, so very easy first step. Next, lanwangji's stringed instrument. I'm not sure what this is called, but it has some very nice real string to it. A nice little cloud pattern on there, as well as a nice wood texture. It actually looks like wood, which is very nice detailing there. He's got 2 pigs on his lap, which you put the holes on the instrument in there. I did have to get eye level with this. It was quite tricky to do. And also just make sure his hands are above the strings. I had them underneath at one point, which is completely wrong. And yeah, just be careful maybe when disassembling the figure so you don't accidentally break any strings. Then after that, we have these branches right here with these very beautiful translucent pink flowers. The ones that aren't completely bloomed have some nice little yellow to them as well. Yeah, so very nice sculpting on these branches. I do like the darker brown to the lighter brown on these. And yeah, so you get a smaller one, you get a much larger one. And then just putting these in, so we have 2 little spots on the back right here. The larger one goes into this peg right here. And yeah, it's a pretty nice fit. It's not super tight, thankfully. And it just slides in pretty nicely right into there. And then the little smaller branch goes into the peg right here in the front. So very easy step, thankfully. And then lastly, the last piece to assemble is weiwuxian's gorgeous ponytail. I love the sculpt on this, very nice. I just wish there was more shading to this. I feel like you can see some blues on it, which is nice, but I just wish there was maybe some more noticeable shading and highlights. His little ponytail piece comes off right here, so do this first so you can at least kind of line it up with the top of his head, and just kind of having this rest on some of the branches. Again, I'm behind the camera, so this is easier said off camera than doing it on camera where I look like a fool, so I apologize for that. And then we get his ponytail, and yeah, you just put it back in like so. I ended up putting the peg into his head a little bit. The tree branch does have a hole where the other piece of his hair goes into. But yeah, overall, pretty painless assembly process for how like elaborate of a figure this is. So yeah, I'd say pretty easy assembly process for this very gorgeous figure. Now we're getting into some B-roll of the figure itself, and I have to say it's definitely one of the prettiest ones in my collection. I think it translated fantastically from the original illustration into 3D. And I really love the sculpt on the clothing, the wood on the tree itself, the flowers, the long hair, of course. I love the way that it all just flows. I am a sucker, once again, for some nice flowing hair on a very pretty anime boy. Very nice sculpting on the water as well, giving it a little bit of a ripple effect, and the moon adds like a nice little detail of like reflection. Lanwangji has some transparentness to his sleeves, which is a very interesting touch. Getting into these little bunnies on the back as well, very cute, even though you really won't see them. So yeah, I feel like my only really big gripe with this figure is it's definitely quite overpriced. I feel like definitely there could have been more detail to the figure. It's mostly, I feel like the shading on the hair and maybe a little bit more on the outfit. Like, yes, weiwuxian has a little bit of like blue, I guess to show like light reflecting. I just wish there was like a little bit more darker shading, and especially on lanwangji, I feel like his hair is just way too of a single colored black, which is a shame. Much more darker shading and lighter shading would have been very nice to add. And then of course I had the little scuff right on lanwangji's hair, and it's right at the front. I still have to patch it up, but yeah, that's a shame for how much this figure cost. But yeah, still a very gorgeous figure though. Size comparison, so we have the 1/8 scale figure of weiwuxian and lanwangji by Good Small Art Shanghai next to the Ninja of Oberon by Orange Rouge. Next is another 1/8 scale figure, the weiwuxian Yi Ling Lao Zhu version, again by Good Small Art Shanghai. Needless to say, this figure has seen better days, as you can tell by the red parts just completely sagging. Definitely points have been docked since I did my review of him way back when. Next, a 1/7 scale, which is the Heaven Official's Blessing, Ji Lian, His Highness Who Pleased the Gods, version 1/7 by Good Small Arts Shanghai. After that, moving on to a 1/6 figure by Rocket Boy. This is, of course, of Mauve. And then lastly, a massive 1/4 scale figure, the Hatsune Miku My Dear Bunny version, made by Freeing. So going into my overall thoughts for this figure, and I have to say I really love it overall, despite some little things that I'll get into in the con section of this part of the video. I really like the presentation. Now, it's definitely not one-to-one with that original artwork, but I feel like it pretty much captures the elements of that original artwork quite well as a figure. The sculpt work on the clothing is very well done, and also the hair. Very nice flow and sculpt with the strands of the hair as well. And I like the use of transparent materials as well, a little bit on the flowers and of course on the water. And I do like how the water has at least some airbrushing to give off a little bit of depth and dimension. The same can be said for the mist that's going around the base, very nice sculpt work and use of translucent materials there. And the rocks that they're sitting on have very nice shading and highlighting applied to them. Also, while I won't be really seeing them, the little bunnies in the back are another little cute touch to the figure. I'm still not too sure what they're supposed to represent. Maybe anyone who's watched the series can tell me in the comments below. And then lastly, the assembly process was fairly painless, surprisingly. Coming off the Strawberry Miku figure that I recorded in the same day, this was definitely a lot less stressful. I'd say really the only tricky part, and you really just have to get into eye level for this, is putting Lanwangji's instrument into his lap. But other than that, I feel like everything went in smoothly, nothing was way too tight of a fit, and you know, thankfully there really weren't so many pieces to put together for this figure. Now moving on to the cons and nitpicks I have for this figure. First and foremost, this figure is extremely expensive. This is, according to Good Small Global's website, 60,000 yen, which is over $400. I do think that this figure is definitely overpriced. You know, maybe knock it down a good $100 or so. Again, I don't know what justifies making a figure the price it is. Obviously, size and such I get, and you know, also material cost and labor just to make these figures. I completely understand, but I don't know, maybe just like with some of the stuff I ran into with this figure, and there could have been maybe more to it. I feel like it could have been a little bit cheaper. And I feel like really the main things that I had, obviously I had the little scuff on Lanwangji's bang, and it's right in front, which I pulled out of the box and it was just there, which is a shame. Again, for the price, I shouldn't be seeing like little mistakes right in front of the figure. A little bit of the same with weiwuxian. It's a little bit less noticeable, but there was a little bit of scuff on the little right side of his hair that's flowing out. There was that as well. And the major thing that I'm quite disappointed to see on this figure is that the hair has lack of shading, and this mostly applies to Lanwangji. Weiwuxian does have some nice shading on his hair. There's some like lighter browns on his ponytail, and they even have a little bit of blue on there to kind of give off like a lighting effect. I think that's what that's supposed to be. So that's pretty noticeable on his hair. But Lanwangji's hair is just a flat black color. There really isn't any darker or lighter shading applied to it. Not even the blue lighting that they did with weiwuxian's hair. It is a shame. A dying, crying shame, because again, the sculpt for the hair is fantastic, but they didn't do anything to it, and that's why I feel like this should have been a little bit cheaper, because, you know, if you put in effort, I understand, but there was just absolutely no effort put into adding some extra little shading and depth into his hair. And now we're going to aftermarket prices. Now this was very tricky. I tried looking for this figure on Mercari JP, Yahoo Japan Auctions, Yahoo Japan Shopping, and I really couldn't find any listings for the figure. I literally tried typing in the series and scrolling through all the stuff and, you know, just the names of the characters, and nothing showed up. Thankfully, there are at least some places that have it in stock, and for the most part, it seems like this figure has gone down slightly in some places and a lot more in others. Sadly, the Good Small Global website does not have this figure in stock. However, the US website still has the figure in stock for that very expensive base price and then the extra shipping and taxes on top of it. Definitely not the first choice I would go to if you want to pick up this figure. And then we're going on to Mondoroke. Now this figure was sold on there and it is sold out, but I wanted to mention that it was sold on there for 20,000 yen, which would have been an absolute steal. And it said the package is heavily damaged, but I only really noticed that little dent on like the front of the box, and that was about it. Shipping is still going to be like an extra $100 so, but you're looking at pretty much $200 total for this figure, which I think, you know, would have been an absolute steal. Congrats, I guess, to the one person who managed to snatch them up for that price. Going to Solaris Japan, where they have them both brand new and pre-owned. A little cheaper, not by much though, and then you have to worry about the shipping on top of it. And lastly, to end off where you can get this figure aftermarket wise, AmiAmi surprisingly has them up on there, on sale for 52,200 yen, or roughly $331.44 USD. Still very pricey. If you don't mind that price tag and you don't mind putting it on Surface, this might be your best bet, unfortunately. And I do apologize that I don't have my usual Bai, Mercari JP, Yahoo Japan auctions listings. I guess that no one really wants to sell this figure. I can kind of see why, for how very pricey it is. And again, I think it's a beautiful figure. I just think it really should have been cheaper. So unless you are a massive fan of this series, I really wouldn't recommend picking this up with the prices that are currently up. Definitely give it some time. I know patience can be painful to go through, but who knows, maybe you can find this figure for closer to $200. That would be an absolute steal. So I do hope that this information does help if you are interested in picking up these two gorgeous, handsome, long-haired boys in the future. So here they both are fully assembled, and overall I'm very happy with these two. I think they both look very gorgeous sculpt wise, and just this whole set piece in general I just really dig. And the sculpt work I think on them is fantastic. I do like the transparent details, and thankfully assembly wise it wasn't too bad overall. Nothing was too tight, too annoying to kind of bob and weave and such. And I guess obviously the other thing I like is that we have two characters in one figure, which I feel like you do see, but it's always just nice to have them, you know, already together. You don't have to buy them separately, if you know what I mean. But yeah, absolutely gorgeous overall. I feel like I'll go over this in the figure overview section, but price point wise, definitely very expensive. And I do really wish that there was maybe some more shading in some areas of this figure. Maybe a little bit more on the clothes. It does still feel a little bit flat to me. Like I can see it, but some areas it's not obvious, or maybe some darker shading should have been used. And especially on the hair, like the sculpt is great. I really do like it, but as a connoisseur of long-haired boys, the hair deserves some shading and highlighting. Weiwuxian, again, I notice it, the lighter shading at least, but lanwangji, it really just looks like one flat color of black, which is quite disappointing. Again, for how much I paid for these two, I should see some nice shading work to them, you know, especially for the sculpt of the hair. But yeah, even with those complaints, I do still quite like them overall. Hopefully, if you are a big fan of this series and you were just waiting for the aftermarket for these two, I really hope it goes down quite a bit. Especially with just, again, some of my chief complaints. You know, I feel like maybe then, in this case, it should have been less. But yeah, overall a very nice set piece if you are a massive fan of this series. So that overall concludes this video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I'm hoping to get into this series a little bit more by watching the anime. Kind of want to watch it dubbed because I'm just busy and don't want to read subtitles. But I actually have been reading the comics, the very gorgeously colored comics that's being published by 7 Seas. And, you know, I've been reading those, so I've been getting to know the characters a little bit more. But yeah. Besides collecting figures of these two, I've just been mostly collecting merch as well, so who knows. I'll have a very nice shrine for this series in the very distant future, so yeah. So thank you all for watching once again. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to take the time to subscribe to my channel to see what other figure and merch related shenanigans I get into next. So I hope you all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or night wherever you are, and take it easy. Goodbye.